And welcome back to Forbes Sports Money. Now for part one of Michael's interview with Adam Petrick, Global Director of Brand Marketing for Puma, one of the world's most recognizable sports brands. Over the course of his 19-year career with Puma, Petrick has held several senior brand and marketing positions and has helped propel the transformation of the brand's approach to the digital space. He's responsible for Puma's creative and advertising efforts across the globe and has been instrumental in the brand's most recent success. In particular, the signing of key celebrity ambassadors and creative brand partners like Rihanna and Jay-Z, as well as the reintroduction of Puma into the basketball category.
Adam, what's the biggest reason for Puma's turnaround?
I think we've refocused ourselves on sports, understanding that sports is not just performance on court, it's also about sports culture, and it's all the aspects of sports that impact our consumers' life on a day-to-day basis. That's what thrills them, that's what excites them, and that's what's helped us regain our footing in the industry.
Now, you recently came back into basketball. Why did Puma leave the NBA, and then why did it come back in 2018?
Well, it's a bit of a long path. I mean, in the early days of the 2000s, we were very focused on exploring the space of the sneaker market as a fashion accessory, which was a very prescient and smart position to go into. I mean, it really helped us grow very, very fast in the early 2000s. And basketball, in those days and in that moment, it just wasn't a part of that mix. Now, if you look at the world of our youngest consumers and our most important influential consumers, the world is driven by sports. The world is driven in particular by the NBA. I mean, the NBA has done a phenomenal job over the last 10 plus years of growing themselves as a lifestyle brand and growing themselves as a culture creator. So there's no better place for us to see the collision between sports, culture, fashion, art, etc., than in the NBA and in basketball in general.
The Walt Clyde Frazier shoe was the first NBA signature shoe of any kind.
That's right.
Basketball sneaker. And you guys still sell the retro Clyde shoes and have a relationship with Clyde.
Yes.
How has it been working with him and continuing that relationship all these years?
We are extremely proud of the ongoing relationship we have with Clyde. We gave him a lifetime contract when we restarted basketball. He's the godfather of Puma basketball. He's the DNA of what we want to be in basketball. He always does the right thing. He's a good guy to look to and have in your corner, but he also was an amazing performer on court. Having somebody who was a performer on court but also understood his role in the culture off court, that's what we aspire to be in Puma and in Puma basketball in particular. So working with him today is I take great pride in that. It's a great pleasure.
The R.J. Barrett signing was huge for you guys. I mean, he was the Knicks' highest draft pick in like 30 years. What went into making sure, from your standpoint, that deal was activated properly and you were able to get fans fully engaged as fast as possible?
When a guy like RJ comes into the league, this is an incredibly smart, incredibly well-spoken guy. He wants to have fun. He wants to engage. He wants to entertain. He reminds me a little bit of Walt in that way. So ensuring that when you've got a guy who is a little bit of the hopes and dreams of the New York basketball scene, then you want to make sure you're connecting and bringing him to the fans in a very direct and organic way. We did this hot dog stand where we showed up, we announced that he was going to be handing out hot dogs to welcome himself to New York City, and we did that and had a tremendous response. We had a line for hours of people who wanted to get a photo with RJ and shake his hand and say hello and welcome him to the city. That's how he wants to engage with the world, and again, that represents our values, so it's a good virtuous circle.
How do you go about deciding who Puma is going to have a relationship with?
That's a great question, and that is probably at the heart, I think, of one of the things that has helped us be successful over the last couple of years. I think it's about understanding what our purpose is, understanding our values, and then ensuring that the people that we work with are going to align to those values. We seek people who are willing to take risks, who aren't afraid of pushing the limits, who have maybe a healthy disrespect of the rules, and who are okay with challenging conventions. And that's very important to us, and it's important that we find people who represent that in the marketplace. I think Rihanna, great example of that. We knew we wanted to do a better job for our female consumer, and we wanted somebody who was going to exemplify that, and not only exemplify that, but also help us be better. Who better than Rihanna to represent all the things that we represent, whether that's being brave or taking risks. She's got that edge, she's got that connection with her consumer, and there was nobody better for us to choose when we decided to take a crack at the women's market.
Do you have to have conversations with the players you have to deal with and say, okay, we like you because like you said, you are brave, you do push the envelope, but these are certain things you cannot do?
We stand with athletes, and we stand with our ambassadors. And what our ambassadors believe in, we make the choice to stand with them, then we're going to support them in what they believe. We're great supporters of the reform initiative that Jay-Z and Meek Mill have founded, and we will continue to stand with our ambassadors in any of the things that they're interested in. If they see injustice in the world, I've got to do that. If I'm gonna look at them as a partner, which is what they are, they're not just faces. They're people that are partners to this brand. They're in our family, and I wouldn't dismiss the values of a member of any member of my family.
How important has Jay-Z been in helping you revive the basketball shoe?
I would say extremely important. I don't think that we would have done it without him. I think that he understands the connection between sports and culture better than just about anybody else out there. I think he has built a business on that understanding. His entire operation is about the connectivity between culture and arts or sports or some of the other categories that he's in. And so who better to help us understand how the NBA and basketball in general are impacting the lives of our consumers, and what piece that plays in the lives of our audience. And he's been extremely influential. He's a part owner of the company. He is really tied into us from a business perspective, and that's the way we wanted it. Because I wouldn't hire Jay-Z to stand in front of an audience and pitch a sneaker. I would hire him to tell me how to do that myself. And that's been a very fruitful relationship thus far.
What are some of the products in that lifestyle space that you like the most?
Recently, we've had some success with blending our heritage and our history, which is deep and long, with modern design, modern trend, and things that are going on in the marketplace. We've got a great example in our RS franchise. RS is a named running system that goes back to the early 80s, and we've rebooted that franchise and modernized it for the current consumer, and we've been extremely successful with capturing a trend by reinterpreting design that comes from the true DNA of the company. We're doing a lot of that with basketball now. We're taking styles that come out of our archive, because we have an archive, we're very fortunate in that regard, and reinterpreting them for today's consumer and the trends that are on the street now. That's the place where we continue to see success, and I hope to continue to extend that into the coming years.
I'm an old statistics guy, right? I started out in the statistics department of Forbes magazine, so my interest in Puma and following it was the numbers.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And I'm looking at the numbers 2012, 2013, and their numbers were terrible here. What turned those numbers around?
Well, so we got a new CEO in 2013, and he came in and very quickly we had to make a lot of changes, and those changes thankfully didn't involve getting rid of me, but they involved rethinking who we were as a brand, right? So we wanted to be a sports brand. He said, look, the bottom line is this is a company that has nearly 70 years in sports. We've got to recommit ourselves to sports. So when we start from understanding that we're going to be a sports brand, and then looking at all the amazing positive things we had going on for us, the best logo in the industry, the huge awareness. I mean, look around the globe at every major market, we have a very high percentage of awareness. We may not have a huge percentage of sell-through or a percentage of market share, but the difference between those two is our potential, is our opportunity. So he said, great logos, great people, great history, great story here. If we could just get that story to start to come clear to consumers, we're going to start to close that gap. And that's exactly what's happened. We still have continuing strong awareness. We have strong positive affinity with a lot of brands. And now it's about getting that sell-through on a day-to-day basis, getting retailers to believe in us, getting them to buy the products so that consumers can find our brand on their shelves. I'm just a custodian. I'm a steward. I'm trying to keep that story going and help us to reach that potential over the course of the time here.
I find it interesting, in recent years, you've moved out beyond sports and traditional running sneakers and apparel. You got wearables, watches, even socks for gamers now.
Sure.
Okay, and you've got a deal with Cloud9.
A partnership with Cloud9 for me is about exploring the world of competitive, sport-driven gaming in a way that is relevant to the youngest consumer we've got. But I think it's also about us exploring the new definition of sport. What is the new way? Where is sport going, in the next 10, 20 years? And I mean, you talk about younger consumers having an affinity for gaming, but I'll tell you, from a demographic standpoint, it's a very broad group of people. There's a lot of people my age who are very big gamers. And so to ignore that, we do so at our peril. So, for us, it's about being open and about listening and about trying to observe the culture around sports and then trying to act on that in a way that improves the lives of our consumers as much as possible.
Was doing a partnership with the WNBA, I know you had with the NBA, was that, I looked at that and thought, gee, I wonder if they felt that was sort of an undervalued brand.
I think that's a partnership that made sense to us. We have a traditional focus on our female consumer. We want to make sure that we're bringing the best possible product to female athletes, whatever the category. So the first basketball player we actually signed was Skylar Diggins, WNBA star. She was looking for a training deal. We kind of knew that we were looking at basketball. We wanted somebody to counsel us and help us think about basketball from a competitive standpoint. So that was a natural choice for us. And we did that even before we announced we were getting back into the category. And we've continued to sign a couple of the top rookies this past year, and we'll continue to do that as we look forward. And it's a natural place for this brand to play.
So much of the success of Puma seems to have been customizing the brand for people, almost making it individual for each person. Is that done through data that you guys collect and being able to segment it out, or?
I wish I could say that we were as data-led as I'd like to be, but I would say that I believe very firmly that the brand is our customer. The brand is held by our consumer. They're the ones that make this brand what it is on a day-to-day basis. And our ambassadors, I talked about our ambassadors being representatives of our brand, and they're the ones who make our brand. But really, when you get down to it, the customer is the person who ultimately is going to make the purchase, and then they're going to wear the brand, and they're going to take pride in that or not. I know that the power of our brand lies in making our customer happy, and therefore, I have to ensure that I'm listening, that I'm observing, that we're paying attention to what's going on in their world, and trying to make sure that we deliver something that meets their expectations.
Ozzie, as you look at the top brands, Nike, Adidas, etc., what jumped out to you about Puma?
Well, it's interesting, Bob. You go back a few years ago, and Puma was down in the dumps. Of course, Nike and Adidas are still much better than Puma in terms of revenue and profits. But you look at the last 3 years and you look at the job Patrick has done, when you're talking about growth, revenue growth, earnings growth, stock market performance, Puma is beating all of its big competitors.
And by the way, never hurts to have Jay-Z on your side, right?
Not at all, or Rihanna either.
That's right.